Hi, I'm Chris with LeBlond. Today we're going to go over changing and taking out your high and low and mid-range speed gear selector. We're doing it on a RKL-1960V. So to get started, first we want to make sure the power is off and do a lockout tag out. Always hit your E-stop. So what we'll have to do, we'll have to take our chuck guard off. The safety switch on the back here, we'll have to take that off as well. And this cover here, just with a simple nut, that'll all come off, and then we'll take the head cover off. Okay, we've gone ahead and got everything off that we've talked about. Now when you take the head cover off, you'll notice that you'll have this oil manifold up here. Now it's not imperative that you take it out. What would be helpful is if you take this line off, because this is the gear down here that we're going to get to. Now we've already gone ahead and taken it off. I've just got it sitting in here to show you for the video purposes. So we'll get started taking this gear out, and it is a fairly simple procedure to do. Tools you will need is an M6 screw and a slide hammer. So you'll come around here to this front side and you'll see this large circle cover. That's where we'll stick our M6 screw in and slide hammer to pull that cap out. Okay, as you can see here, I've got my slide hammer, my M6 screw, and I'll screw it into this cap. And taking my slide hammer and being careful. Now what you want to watch for is on this cap is your O-ring. That seals it so the oil doesn't leak. You just want to give it a once over, take a look at it, see if it's damaged or not. If so, then we would recommend to replace it. Next, there's a snap ring in here that has to come out. Shut it down, I gotta get. Okay, now that the cap's out, you'll see that there's a snap ring retainer in here holding this bearing in. Next, you'll need your slide hammer again and an M8 screw to screw into the shaft itself. Now you'll see as I'm coming, the shaft is starting to come out on its own there. Okay. So as you can see, we've almost got the gear loose. All we have to do now is get this bearing off the shaft, and it's pressed on, so it's a little tough. So you'll have to sit there and work at it with your slide hammer, depending on the size of your slide hammer. So it's just going to take a little bit of time and patience, and it'll be free. Okay, we're going to talk about a couple key points here. Now, if you notice on this bearing, it's closed on this side and open on this side. Now take care to pay attention on how you took it out so it goes back in and on the shaft with the closed end going in towards this gear. Now we've got it loose, so I'll go ahead and pull the shaft out. Now my gear is free to come out. As you can see, it's splined. But another thing to look for is on your spline shaft. Let me wipe it off for you. You'll notice on the gear there's a marking of some scratches, and there's also a scratch on the shaft as well. That is where they want you to line the spline back up to go inside, so those scratches line up. Just key points to be aware of. So now that you have that off, you would just go all over the steps again, except with that bearing that we struggled on this shaft. First, we would go ahead and with the closed size going in first, press that inside that gear. Then with your open end of the gear, fixing it back down, sticking it in between your brass fingers, we can slide it over, and looking for my scratch marks and my mark on my spline shaft. Lining it back up. Now with a large aluminum block, I'll place that up against my bearing on this side. Working it in. Making sure that my shaft lines up with that bearing inside that gear. And that looks like my shaft is all the way tight inside that gear. I would look here on this side and make sure I have my gap to put my snap ring back in.
I'm trying to get you more FaceTime.
Sure. Okay, now I'm going to take my snap ring. Be careful not to lose it. Now she snapped back in place. Now for my cap, I'm going to leave the screw on. And real lightly, be easy so you don't damage your rubber O-ring seal. Work her into place. Take your screw out. Slide your handle. Make sure everything's working correctly. Spin your shaft. And there you have it. Okay, so now that we've got our gear back in, our oil manifold back together, we would go ahead and put our top back on. Now a few things that I want to go over. To make sure of when you put your guard back on. I'm just going to put one screw in this just to make it kind of go by a little quicker for you. Your safety switch. You want to make sure before you take off running that you have it set properly. You want to be able to, once everything's in and you lift it up, you want to be able to hear the click. That way you know that your machine is back and then the safety switch is in and you will be safe to run.